Welcome back to A Better Conversation, a podcast put on by Better Dallas. As always, I'm your host, Chris Clement, joined also, as always, by the man, the myth, the mustache, the beard, and the hockey dad, Mr. Kyle Mason.
Yes, good to be here. And just before anyone asks, no, we did not coordinate on trying to match. I was just trying to be festive and be like, oh, what's one of the most Thanksgiving things that I have? And this was it. And I guess you had the same idea?
This shirt didn't have wrinkles. That's how I decided on it this morning. So here we are.
Yes. We're also joined by Wild Turkey.
We are.
So
not an official sponsor, but we're not against it.
Not against it.
So, with Thanksgiving around the corner, you're undoubtedly sitting around the fire watching this with your family on Thanksgiving before or after the Cowboys game. Kyle and I couldn't eat a turkey, so we're going to be drinking some turkey.
There you go.
Because we're a couple turkeys ourselves. And gobble, gobble, let's get into all the fun things that are going on right now.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about the recent congressional maps, Supreme Court drama, which I love. We're also going to be talking about some local politicians that may or may not have human functioning brains. And then we'll just generally be talking about sort of the kind of chaotic state of things right now as we're in the middle of filing periods. It's always an interesting time for people making these very strange political alliances and all the, like Tarrant County, their chair stepped down to run for dog catcher or something.
Railroad commissioner.
Oil and gas.
Oil and gas.
Well, he's a railroad man, obviously, so he's lots of experience with that. And it had their interim race. They're going into their full race.
Yeah.
There was some drama in that, and actually some like respectable collegial behavior in not drawing elections out. But anyway, let's start by talking about these congressional maps and the ongoing legal challenge. During our last episode, we went into detail on the, I'll just say, excoriating opinion written by two members of the three-judge panel.
Yep.
As much fun as that was, the 104-page dissent from Justice Smith or Circuit Judge Smith.
Yes.
Mwah, it was beautiful.
First one I ever read, by the way.
Yes.
I was like, wow.
Dissents are fun because it's not the opinion of the court. You don't have to have other judges join it, so there is no moderating effect often on dissenting opinions. So they go buck wild. Some of the best quotes from opinions, if you're a nerd like me and have a list of best quotes, come from dissents. We're not going to go through the full 104 page because we have Supreme Court briefing, which sort of like trumps it up a little bit. But kudos to you, Circuit Judge Smith. That was a delightful 104 page read.
That was crazy. I messaged it. I was like, hey, have you read the dissent or whatever? You read that?
Well, actually, you said we finally got sued.
Yeah.
Which, as a lawyer, was like, I try to be the death of joy on the podcast to make sure we don't get sued, but I guess I didn't do that all the way. But no,
that was good. But yeah,
we're not getting sued, by the way.
Going through that, and I'm not gonna try to quote anything, but that was the first one that I ever read. I was really surprised to see the language and the breakdown and everything that was in it. I didn't know those things actually happened.
Right. Was it Circuit Judge Smith said, the first thing I learned while being a judge is to always sit with your back against the wall?
Yeah. That was interesting.
Just cool stuff. But we're past that. The dissenting opinion means that he lost the vote and there was an order in place. Well, very recently, the Supreme Court stepped in, specifically Judge Alito, Bush appointee, stepped in and stayed that order, which, trying to unpack that, you had an order telling Texas you can't use the new maps. You've got to go back to using your previous maps. Justice Alito from the U.S. Supreme Court, he's the one that is assigned for any emergency actions for this part of the country. The Supreme Court gets requests for emergency action all the time, so different justices are assigned different parts of the country. Alito gets ours from Texas and from the Fifth Circuit.
Lucky.
When he got it, he put in place what's called an administrative stay. An administrative stay is not a final decision on whether the lower court was right or wrong, but in his opinion, Texas needed to be allowed to proceed with the maps that the legislature adopted. So he temporarily stayed the lower court's order. Briefing happened, and legal briefing is never brief. It's usually quite extensive. So the first thing that happened is the state of Texas, Governor Abbott's office, filed their emergency application to get rid of the stay. And then in addition to that, there were, like, the Trump administration filed what's called an amicus curiae, which means friend of the court brief. It means you're not a party to the lawsuit, but you have an interest in its outcome, and so you can provide legal briefing. And then even Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz filed their own amicus. They obviously are not affected by this, but they are the two sitting senators for the state of Texas, and they had their say in it as well. So lots of briefing came in. The plaintiffs in the case, like LULAC and a lot NAACP, a lot of those groups, they filed their responses. So right now it's just sitting with the Supreme Court. Because of Judge Alito's administrative stay, Texas can continue to move forward with the primaries using the new maps. The Supreme Court will get to review as a whole, as all 9 of the justices will get to review whether or not they want to affirm the lower court, deny the lower court, refuse to consider it, whatever it is that they're going to do. So that is what's sitting out there right now. Now, the thing with these it's called a shadow docket. The Supreme Court does not operate 24/7, 365. They don't even operate normal business hours. They have their sessions where they will take in cases, they'll consider oral arguments for certain parts of the year. Other parts of the year, like right now, they are generally not open to the public. They're not taking overall oral arguments. They might, on special occasion, take a couple. This is one where they're reviewing it behind the scenes. We'll see what they say. It'll just happen one day. One day, there will just be an opinion that comes out of the court that tells us what they decided after reviewing all this stuff.
First question that comes to mind, I guess, since it's not a time frame, but what happens when we get, X amount of days into primary season and they come out and say, no, you can't have those districts? Like, do we get past a certain point where they're like, okay, in the future you can't have it, but these are the districts right now?
Probably not. So it's a great segue to what the briefing is about for the most part. Part of the Justice Alito, I'm sorry, his order staying or administratively staying the lower court's decision is just a one-pager with no analysis. So we don't know what his rationale was for doing that.
Okay.
Before conspiracy theories fly, that's how it always happens. You're usually not going to get an explanatory decision from the court until after they've all reviewed it and they've come up with either their opinion or concurring opinions or whatever it's going to be.
They've chit-chatted about it.
Just so you know, I you can Google this or AI it or whatever you want to do, but with the Supreme Court, there's some terms that are important. So you have the opinion of the court. Whenever the court hears all the oral arguments, they circulate behind the scenes and try to get to 5 votes. And sometimes the court will unanimously decide something. We all agree not only on the outcome, but we agree with the rationale as to why that's the outcome. That's the best case scenario, honestly, for the Supreme Court. Often when you talk about a court being like a 5-4 or a 6-3 decision, usually what happens is that the judges will circulate the opinion behind the scenes. So for example, in this case, the question is, should the lower court's decision to enjoin or to prohibit Texas from using the newly adopted maps, should that stand or should that be reversed? Well, that's the ultimate decision, affirm or reverse, right? That's what the court will decide. But that doesn't always mean that's the reason the court reaches that conclusion. So you could have, for example, 3 of the Supreme Court justices that say, we want to reverse the lower court, but we want to do it for reason A. And you could have 3 other justices that say, we agree that we need to reverse the lower court, but we want to do it because of reason B. Well, the fact that you have 6 justices that agree that the lower decision needs to be reversed, that is the ultimate decision that matters, right?
Okay.
But what you'll have happen is you might have multiple opinions drafted by the court. If you can get a certain number of judges that agree with the rationale, there'll be a majority opinion on the court.
Yeah.
And then you could have what are called concurring opinions. And a concurring opinion generally means we agree with the outcome, but our rationale is a little different.
Okay.
So while we join these other justices and their outcome, we're writing a separate opinion because our rationale is different.
Okay.
Dissenting opinions are, we disagree with the outcome and here's why. Right? So when you hear majority opinion or concurring opinion, plurality opinion, it happens sometimes with the Supreme Court where there might be 3 issues presented by a case. You might have justices agree on 2 of them, but not the third. So you have partially concurring, partially dissenting, like all that stuff can be split up. We'll see how that happens here. Ultimately, the main focus on this case, and this goes back to the point you brought up, what practically happens if the Supreme Court doesn't decide this until late?
Yeah.
So the predominant argument, the main argument that's being advanced by the governor's office, by the attorney general's office, and by our senators, Cornyn and Cruz, is there's this decision that's called the Purcell decision. We talked about it a little bit last time. So what Purcell basically stands for is it's too late in the game to change the maps.
Right.
Right? Like you might be right. It's too late in the game for us to be granting a preliminary injunction that prevents you from using these maps. You want to challenge them. Maybe they're not used next time. That's one thing, but we're too late in the game. That is largely the argument that's being advanced. There is some lip service being put to, we're not actually violating any rights or constitutional rights. It's not racial gerrymandering. Like those arguments are being advanced, but it's sort of like, but also it's not unconstitutional. The main argument is whether you think it's unconstitutional or not, it's too late to change these maps.
Do you think that was that could be a tactic?
It would 100% be the tactic that I would choose.
Right.
Right? Because generally when you talk about appeals, if you give the court the opportunity to win on a procedural matter, a lot of times courts of appeal will jump on that to avoid having to rule on the merits. It's much easier to say, well, technically your appeal is dismissed for this reason than it is to go out there and say, put yourself out there and say, no, we don't believe there's any racial gerrymandering here.
So like California, if they come down the pipe with a new map, they throw it out there, that more than likely at this point would be like, hey, if this it gets passed as, hey, it's just too late in the game to change this. If California at this point came out, it got to the Supreme Court, they would have to give them the same thing, like, hey, it's just too late in the game to turn it. We have to go forward with their maps. It's been passed by the state legislator, same thing as Texas.
Not necessarily.
No.
Huh.
What would be the difference there? Where's the hope? Where's the hope, Chris?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I literally have the hope highlighted.
Okay, there we go.
So I want to read part. Now this is the official application on behalf of the state of Texas. This is the Attorney General's office is the one that will typically draft the opinions of the governor of the state when they're sued. Mm-hmm. So this is the Texas Solicitor General. Ken Paxton might have read this. The Solicitor General and his team were the one that actually wrote this.
Gotcha.
So here's a part that I want to quote because this was a really important argument that I feel was raised. And it's this. With regard, because some of the argument by the panel, the 2 judges that struck this down at the lower court level, part of their argument was basically, hey, look, the plaintiffs kind of did this as soon as they could. Texas adopted these maps in a special session. they reasonably got to it at a reasonable time, so we're not going to punish them for that.
Right.
What the state of Texas is arguing here is like, no, and this is I really liked this paragraph of the briefing. Quote, the legislature did not bear sole or even primary responsibility for the lateness of the injunction. The district court waited nearly 40 days after the hearing to issue the injunction, and plaintiffs themselves delayed enactment of the map. Some plaintiffs in this case are Democratic members of the Texas legislature who broke quorum by fleeing the state, evading warrants for their arrest, while the legislature was attempting to pass the 2025 map, a tactic that delayed the passage of the map for weeks. Considering the equities, plaintiffs should not get the benefit of the delay they caused by breaking quorum.
I see.
Now, this was an argument that was advanced in, we didn't go into it, but in the dissenting opinion from Circuit Judge Smith. Texas, I think, wisely jumped on it and made that part of their briefing for the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
and that's basically saying, well, Judge, members of the Supreme Court, the plaintiffs in this case are part of the reason that it took so long for the legislature to actually pass this thing.
Yeah.
Had they not pulled that whole breaking quorum stunt and fled the state of Texas, we could have passed these maps a long time ago. They could have filed their lawsuit earlier. Oh, by the way, I guess the three-judge panel was walking in the desert with Moses because it took them 40 days and 40 nights to freaking, or Jesus, whatever, to get this to us, to get a decision. Of course, it was a 160-page decision, so maybe take a little bit of time to write.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the argument that was advanced. It's like, well, the district court drug its feet, and the plaintiffs in this case also delayed considering it. So you can't blame the Texas legislature for it being adopted late, and you can't reward the other side for their delay tactics by, at the last minute, changing the maps up. Another big argument that was raised was, and this was a good one, was that generally speaking, when you're challenging election line maps, and your challenge is that it was done for racial gerrymandering purposes, one of the pieces of evidence that plaintiffs are often required to provide, or almost always do provide, is an alternative map. Is saying, you know what? They claimed that they were doing it for non-racial purposes. They were doing it for these, non-discriminatory reasons for redrawing the lines. Well, we had an expert redraw the lines to fit that doesn't have this racial component to it. Here, one of the critiques, and I will be interested to see if the Supreme Court jumps on it, is, well, plaintiffs didn't even meet their evidentiary burden because they didn't provide any maps. They could have had an expert provide an alternative map and say, okay, well, instead of using this, you should use this map because it accomplishes your non-discriminatory purposes of redrawing the lines without having the racial component.
They didn't provide a map.
They did not provide an alternative map. Now, I guess they would probably argue, I didn't read their briefing in all honesty yet.
Yeah.
Hey, the alternative map was the map that we had before Texas changed it.
Sure.
Usually the reason that you have an alternative map is because usually these challenges come during the normal redistricting phase after the census.
Yeah.
So usually there are a multitude of maps that they can choose from. And so generally there it makes a little more sense that you're going to provide an alternative map. I think in this case, the plaintiffs would probably argue, well, we already had a map. So our alternative map is the one that we had before this.
So,
when do you
sorry, technical difficulties. We are back. My question is this. With those were all before. With the delay tactic, those are all really good arguments.
Right.
How soon did they file? We passed the map. How soon did they file to object to this? Was it immediately, or was there also a delay there on the back end?
It was pretty quick, if I'm being perfectly honest.
It was pretty quick.
There wasn't,
Okay, cool.
I mean, especially from like a legal standpoint, I think it was pretty quick
good.
that they got this file. They were preparing for it.
Okay.
I mean, they knew these maps were coming. They kind of knew how they were going to be redrawing them. The legal arguments for them being racial lines, like as soon as that DOJ letter dropped, I mean, they could start preparing the legal arguments at that point. You knew the Democrats were going to be, issuing a challenge. So I don't think that was really the issue. The issue was just like all the crap that they did, the delay in the court, but ultimately the fact that, and this is something that was argued strongly by the state of Texas, hey, look, we're in the middle of accepting applications for districts.
Yeah.
One of the amicus that was filed was actually filed by a number of candidates for Congress that are like, we're non-incumbents. We're trying to run for office. I don't know which district I'm supposed to run in,
Right.
or if I'm actually going to run. Oh, by the way, December 8th is the deadline for filing applications.
Yeah.
The state's brief talks about some elected officials that are like, I don't know which district I need to file in. Do I need to file in, I think it was like 9 or 17? I can't, something along those lines.
Right.
And so this is part of the issue. This is why Purcell exists. Because what you want to be able to do is say, here's the issue that we have constitutionally, whatever our challenge is. We have time to strike down the map that we don't like, implement a new map,
Yep.
and allow the state to pivot to be able to conduct its elections according to the new map, the old map, whatever. What is argued by the state of Texas with the Supreme Court, and I think carries some weight, is 253 out of the 254 counties in the state of Texas have been preparing their 2025 primaries, their 2026 primaries, I guess, using these new congressional maps.
Right.
We already have people sending in applications, fundraising, campaigning, doing all that stuff. And now here with 2 weeks, they've got to all pivot and do something entirely different.
Right. Right.
There was a Texas elections official that testified at the lower court and did their best to say, like, yeah, whatever happens, like, the state of Texas will try to make it work and try to have our primary on the 3rd, and we'll do our best and whatever. The lower court panel took that as like, oh, Texas doesn't seem to think there's a problem at all. Texas doesn't think there's an issue at all with them being able to get these elections conducted in time. The briefing here says, no, not so fast. Like, that is a very dutiful, admirable position for a public servant to take, that no matter what, we're going to do our best to make this work for our voters. That doesn't mean that it's easy for the state to do. It doesn't mean it's reasonable for the state to do.
It is not easy. It is you're moving a mountain to get elections lined up to even go off on the planned schedule, let alone let's
Right.
throw in a bunch of wrenches into this system. I mean, it very easily could become there's huge delays, there's not people able to vote.
Right.
Very easily. Very, very easily.
Well, because one of the things that people don't think about, as soon as the applications are turned in, accepted, we know who's going to be on the ballot. They immediately have to start printing ballots, especially, overseas mail-in ballots.
Right.
Like, you have to immediately start the process to get those things printed, to get those things set, to get it set out. It's not like people are chilling until February to start getting ballots together.
Right.
So it really does matter. I think, honestly, it's the best argument that the state has for keeping these maps. They do their best to try to say, the DOJ letter's not as bad as you think.
Yeah.
The panel said it was a lot worse than it really was. Honestly, some of those arguments, if I were a justice, would kind of like, what do you mean I shouldn't listen to what the governor said? Because that's part of what the state's briefing says, is like, well, I know the governor said that we wanted more Hispanic districts, but that really wasn't racially motivated. It was politically motivated. And I just don't think that that's a particularly strong argument to make. And them essentially trying to like poo-poo this DOJ letter like it wasn't really a big deal. It's like, yeah, the timeline doesn't back that up. So anyway, I think that the Purcell argument that they're making is a strong one. I think there's a good chance. If you remember when we read the parts of the panel's decision on the last podcast, we read the final portion of it where it specifically said, yeah, the Supreme Court might come in and strike us down, as it very often does,
Right.
I kind of think that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to come in and say, this is just too late in the game for us to be changing the maps like this, so we're going to let the map stay, at least for this election. Whether they ultimately rule that they're constitutional or not is a totally different question.
Right.
I mean, there's still an ongoing legal challenge to whether or not the maps that were adopted in 2023 are constitutional. There's oral arguments in the Supreme Court on that on December the 10th.
It never ends.
Right. So, well, as the thing is, this whole lawsuit, that lawsuit was trucking along, and Texas was doing very well in that lawsuit. And then all of a sudden, the new maps were adopted. And so the pleadings of an existing lawsuit were sort of co-opted to be able to raise this argument as well.
Nice.
But anyway,
I do like that.
so that's the ongoings. Obviously, we'll keep you updated as soon as news drops. It could happen at any time. All the parties have filed their briefing. The state of Texas still has the opportunity to file a reply brief. The Supreme Court doesn't have to wait for the reply brief to make a ruling. They usually do, but they don't have to. But the state has filed its petition with the Supreme Court to push away the stay. The respondents, the Democrats, LULAC, NAACP, all those types, they filed their responses. Amicus have been filed. I'm going to say kudos to Cruz and Cornyn for spending the money on the lawyers to file an amicus in this case. They really didn't need to.
Right.
It's great support for Republicans in the state of Texas. So I give them both credit for participating in that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, I think both of them do support, I guess, everyone underneath of them, if that's what how you want to put it, like I guess lower level running. I mean, the Cruz campaign, as far as
I just make sure you weren't making like a Clinton joke or something.
no,
Okay.
I don't get that one. Okay, you didn't know, but there's 4 people in this right now. No, but like they really do seem to kind of go out of their way to support other people that doesn't necessarily help them in one way or another with like elections and giving access to data, and like for instance this. They're going to be on the ballot one way or another potentially.
They'll at least be on the primary ballot.
They'll at least be on the primary ballot, but their districts is the state. It's like they're not going to get district out of where they live or
Correct.
something. So, or into an unfriendly area, and they don't necessarily have to. And I do think that makes it a little bit stronger of an argument. Like, here's these two senators. That is something I would like to see just in general from the Republican Party is people that are like the influencers, the senators, the other House reps, where we're about to get into one. Just everyone involved, kind of, even if it's not your race, you kind of have like this obligation as if they are your neighbor to step up and help out. I think that kind of lifts everyone's boat. If we want to go back to like a Ronald Reagan thing, like, oh, rising tide lifts all boats in the Republican Party.
I agree.
And I don't know if that happens enough. I feel like a lot of politicians will step forward if they feel like it's a sure thing. Like, people are afraid to put their neck out. Like, well, I don't want to put my, it's a Democrat +4 district. Kind of on the line there. I don't want to put my name on someone that might lose. It's like,
Right.
It's a D+4.
Right.
Like, coward. Like, I get it if it's like a D+8, 10, something like that. Like, I understand that, or not wanting to put money or a bunch of resources behind it. But it's like, if you're only going to show up to like a for sure thing, it's like, do I bet on red or bet on red? It's like, you gotta, what's your take on that?
Well, I think that, again, an analogy that I like is that on the chessboard, different pieces move differently. Mm-hmm. And so in politics, you have that. Right? You have some people that are just phenomenally gifted fundraisers.
Sure.
John Cornyn, amazing fundraiser. Mm-hmm. When he was helping to run like the National Senate Republican Committee, they raised oodles and oodles and oodles of money.
That's why he almost won the Senate's majority leader.
I mean, that's something that he is really, really good at.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you want to run for office by talking about, you hate all the rhinos like John Cornyn. I don't care if you're in an R+4, D+4, D+10. You can't reasonably expect for the establishment and money from the establishment to come help you.
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of, it's literally you're biting the hand that feeds you.
Yep.
Now, it's not to say that you can't challenge the ideas of these people that you disagree with. It's not saying that you have to be, bought and paid for. But this is where politics used to be, have some, you used to have a little dignity, a little class about what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
The way you would disagree would be different. But in today's social media age, it's just like, well, how many clicks can I get?
Yeah.
If I sit there and say that John Cornyn is a horrible rhino that's trying to Islamify Texas and protect epic development, well, I might have a BS X account that has some viral posts doing that. Mm-hmm. And there's no actual relation to reality of what I'm saying, but I get attention doing it.
Right.
As opposed to having an actual critique of, hey, I would have liked John Cornyn to not engage in some of this bipartisan, gun control stuff. Right. I don't agree with funding red flag laws because I don't agree with red flag laws. And so the federal government shouldn't be providing anything like that.
Yeah.
But you don't get clicks with that. You don't get attention doing that. So
people, the substantive debates don't carry as much weight, just like what you're saying. I mean, yeah, people really do want the clicks and what they get. What did we read earlier? It was like there was an X account that said that the Epic development was taking money from the CCP.
Yes.
And
my favorite.
And I was like, well, hold on one sec. I feel like that would really be grounds to get rid of it. The CCP was the abbreviation of the name of the LLC, which was like the community something project or something. It's like,
but that post that we watched, the post that we saw, in all fairness, to actually accurately what it said CCP. It also talked about China.
Yes.
So it's not like, it wasn't just like accidentally stupid. It was intentionally misleading that the CCP was the Chinese Communist Party and not just Capital whatever partnership, whatever the actual entity was.
Yes.
And of course, this is no defense of the Epic development and any of the shadiness and the investors and any of that. It just isn't the Chinese Communist Party doing this sort of stuff. My point being, going back to like people like Cornyn, you're not going to bring John Cornyn in to get the base pumped.
No,
right? You're not going to have a rally and say, we've got John Cornyn, and have people filling up the American Airlines Center. With all due respect to our senior senator. Now, somebody like Ted Cruz might be able to do that ish, right? Some of these influencers might be able to fill a room, might be able to get people pumped up, get people excited. But those people can't fundraise the same way, right? Because they're all going to the same set of pockets, or maybe they're getting money from Qatar. This is where the different pieces on the board all have to do their part.
Yes. No, absolutely. I mean, so just kind of the point that we were making, the recent race in Virginia, I feel like was one of those times where it's like the candidates were kind of unimpressive. There wasn't that big like Daily Wire breaking story, and the energy was there. I mean, you could feel it. Right. Everyone was like, yes, let's go. This is going to happen. We got a great shot. There was the governor who was already a prior governor, and a bunch of people showed up. I mean, you had a bunch of influencers, you had House reps, you had state senate. I mean, all these people were showing up, right? Because really, they were kind of there for themselves in a way to get picture. Hey, look what I'm doing. Look how great I'm for the party.
It's a mutually beneficial thing.
It's a mutually beneficial thing. This time around, it was kind of more or less maybe not as exciting or unimpressive candidates. And the energy was not there. The energy hasn't been there for the Republican Party for several months now. But like no one showed up.
No.
Like no one showed up because it wasn't beneficial. And I think this politics. It is politics. I understand that, but my point is that like it, we do still have to show up. Young Republicans showed up. They were doing a bunch of door knocking. They were out. They had some mobilizations. That was really good. But as far as there was a few things on Twitter, or sorry, X. But other than that, it was like the whole campaign for Virginia in this kind of not so crucial off-season cycle just kind of left, I feel, the Republican Party in Virginia hanging.
They did a bad job with their campaign.
Yes, they did.
I'm sorry.
No, they did. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The thing that Youngkin did, and, we've had some of Youngkin's campaign team here doing election training in North Texas, right? Very, very talented, guys like Mark Campbell.
Yep.
What they did, again, like this is the thing that we keep missing as Republicans right now, I think, is we're like fighting with each other about who's going to control the base. Because what's happening, and it's Trump's leaving, right? Trump's no longer going to be running MAGA. He's no longer going to be the big, you can give me a little extra. He's no longer going to be the big man in the room or anything like that, right? I mean, and the voters we've talked about on the podcast before, the Trump MAGA voters are not your traditional Republican voters. In 2016, Trump brought a lot of people to the party that had not previously been part of the party.
Ever.
Right now, throughout the country, you have Republicans fighting over who's gonna get those folks next. And so part of the problem in Virginia, and I don't know if this was root cause of Virginia because I haven't studied the race that carefully, is Youngkin remembered that it's addition, right? Like elections are math problems.
Right.
He needed to add more voters, and he nailed an issue with the men and women's bathrooms.
Yeah.
He got moms motivated and activated and out to vote for him. Moms that might not have otherwise gone out and voted, moms that might be moderates, might have previously been, moderate Democrats, were now casting votes for Youngkin on that issue. Great job.
Yes.
Great issue. Great mobilization effort on that. They added new voters. I don't feel that Winsome Sears did that in her election. I feel like they played to the base, and unfortunately, the base wasn't enough. There was not that message from the Sears campaign, which is, if you're not already with us, why you should join our coalition.
Right. And I think that there's a math issue with the base. I think that the Republican Party is calculating the base wrong. I think that they're trying to use the presidential numbers. This is the base. It's like, no, it's not. We brought in a lot of new people that either voted for the first time just in general, or voted Republican for the first time, or they're very young, or they believed Donald Trump's message, or they got caught up in the broadcast wave and all those things. Those people are not showing up in an off-cycle election, especially when your message is very weak.
Right.
So your math is like way off. Generally speaking, getting out the base can win you elections, but not in Virginia. Not in Virginia if that's not going to work.
We had this conversation on the podcast earlier in the year. You have political capital. You only have a certain amount of political capital.
Right.
So when you're doing things in Washington, when you're doing things down in Austin, you've got to give voters their wins. You've got to focus on the things that voters care about. Right. What are the top issues to voters? Go do those things first, and then you build up your political capital to do whatever pet project things that you want. Now, and this is the hard part about governing. You might be right that for the health and safety of our nation, of our state, of our community, it might be most important to focus on water infrastructure. That might be the most critical thing for the future of Texas,
right?
Hypothetically.
Right.
But if that's not a top issue to voters,
yeah,
you have to give the voters the wins
that they want
before you start doing the thing that because you're just going to lose them at that point.
Right.
And it's also a matter of like, well, yeah, if this is so important to you, then sometimes you have to like do the work to get there. And sometimes the work is we're going to pass property tax relief, we're going to pass school choice, and we're going to pass measures that limit, the immigration or something like that in Texas.
Sure.
The issuance of foreign student, admissions at state schools or something like that. You're going to do something to address the issues. We're going to do healthcare portability. We're going to do things to reduce healthcare costs in the state of Texas. Like we're going to do stuff to address the insurance issues that are going on. Give the voters some wins to earn the political capital to do the other stuff that you want to do.
Right.
I don't feel like we're doing a good job of that. I think there are some people. Like I want to give credit to somebody like Tan Parker, like Senator Parker. I feel like Senator Parker does an excellent job at when he goes down to Washington. And I'm sorry, Austin. This is what happens.
We go over to Washington. We go down to Austin.
I'm just saying when we're drinking wild turkey while doing this, things are getting confused. But what Senator Parker does a great job of is he has his issues that he knows are crucially important that may not be the sexy issues for voters.
Yeah.
And he works even outside the session to constantly advance the ball on that. But he also goes down to Austin and he focuses on things that voters actually care about, that are going to support his constituents and his district. And I feel like he does an excellent job of maintaining that sort of balance of take care of what his voters care about, but also do maybe the boring stuff that just makes life better behind the scenes for Texans.
Yeah. No, and there's a lot of bills and
we are not paid by the
Tan
Parker campaign.
Right. Well, no, and just to kind of keep building on that, and he will show up too as kind of like to Young Republican event. He'll go out and talk to a lot of people. He'll take questions, and he kind of is that politician. Like when you talk to him, you're like, this guy does focus on the things that no one wants to do. Like he's focusing on, I kind of like when you talk about this, like amicus briefs and all this stuff, I'm like, you're nerding out on law. He kind of nerds out on policy.
He does.
And it is true, as much as I like the big, social issues and all like the kind of that top headlines, like at the end of the day, it's like, you kind of do need to work on water infrastructure. You need to work on real estate, this and that. You need to work on zoning, this and like those are things that actually matter, but nobody sees it.
The last time that I talked to Senator Parker, he was 100% nerding out over increasing the energy supply in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, stuff that, maybe Winter Storm Uri kind of elevated it.
Sure.
But it's not something you're going to talk about at Thanksgiving.
No, everyone forgot about it already. Like, remember way back when all our pipes busted? It's like...
Your crazy uncle is not going to offend your blue-haired cousin by talking about, energy supply in the state of Texas. Maybe yours.
No, by the way, I'm about to say, I've been like trading memes with my family members.
Yeah.
I am the crazy uncle now. Like, I am that guy. Everyone's like, hey, so, like, we've been sharing all these funny memes and stuff. And I was like, hey, I got this bottle of wild turkey. So at some point, like, I'm going to bring up politics. It is going to happen. But I will say my family in general, I don't know if a lot of families still have this, but fairly diverse. And yet we can still have a good conversation. Everyone's cordial. I don't know if I feel like we're kind of unique in that way. I could be wrong,
right?
Because I don't sit in other people's families, conversations. But do you think that other families do that still, like have those political conversations when they know, across the table their cousins are, very far left, or however you put that?
My grandmother has been begging me for decades to not talk about politics with other members of my family.
She's like, my prayer, please, God, please, God, no.
Yes. My grandmother is a peacemaker, and Barbara Ann has been begging me to not engage in some of that stuff.
We have to do it.
You do. Look, I mean, it comes down, like, I have generally found that people that are either well informed and they reach their opinions because they're well informed and maybe there's a value difference.
Yeah.
Or people that are generally looking to be solution oriented. It doesn't matter if you have differences in political opinions, you can talk to those people.
Yeah.
It's the people that are part of a tribe that it's just like, no. Like, if being part of a particular tribe is a source of your identity, you really can't. Like, I just don't think that that a lot of families you can engage even within family.
It gets emotional very quickly.
It does, because, well, it makes sense because it's questioning your identity of who you are.
Everything about you. Yeah.
It's not a good thing to make your political party affiliation a core of who you are as a person. It should be the core of who you are as a person and your values and the things that you care about that make you a part of a political party. When that happens, I feel like you can have constructive disagreement and look at issues in different ways. And I'm going to, there's another, there's, she may have a few more viewers than we do on A Better Conversation. But there's this, girl that talks about like pop culture and a little bit of politics. Her name is Shoe on Head. Yeah. And she's a YouTuber. And she's like an e-girl, if you know what that is, and it's always interesting because I kind of feel like she backslid into talking about politics because she's just sort of like making observations.
Yeah.
But she had kind of a breakdown on like the Mom Donnie sort of thing up in New York, which is where she's from. And her takeaway is essentially, he's the only guy that's like talking about the things that matter to people.
Right.
Right. Like affordability is such a massive problem in New York, and Mom Donnie was the only one really talking about it.
Yep.
And it was one of the things that she uses as an example is during the debates, there was a question posed of all the candidates that were running, which is, where the mayor makes his or her first international trip is of major significance. Where would you go? Everyone said Israel, which is obviously the right answer. But Mamdani said, oh, well, I don't plan on going anywhere because I'm going to stay here and focus on problems for New Yorkers. That's a great answer. I don't believe him. It's a great answer. And that's what people want to hear. And that's what people are sort of hungry for.
Yeah, no, and that was because and he answered last too. So that was that was just luck of the draw, right? Because if he would have answered first, I think that would have conversation gone differently. But yes, it's like, dude, why are we talking about, these other countries and this and that? We're talking about a city, right? And it is a big city in America, right? But yes, and I think the Republican Party has kind of strayed away from those harder topics. For instance, about housing is one of those things, right? Where, or healthcare is a really big, giant bruise on the Republican Party right now. It's undeniable. It's like we had everything negative to say about Obamacare. We've had time to do something, and yet nothing's really come forward. It's like, okay, look, it's not easy. I don't know anything about healthcare and reforming it, but it's like, you're going to have to make a hard decision and do something about it. Because if not, to your point, people are going to go look for other solutions, and they could be really wrong. But someone is addressing it, and that's what they're going to go to. That's what they're going to be pulled towards.
I feel like right now, Democrats are focusing on the right issues. They just have bad solutions.
Correct.
And Republicans have good solutions for the wrong issues.
Yeah.
I think that's just sort of like one of the things that we talked about. I don't think this is a good solution, but like, recently I call them the fake YRs, the splinter YR group in Texas.
Yeah, the more right. They're like a little bit more, well, they're more to the right of the first YR faction. Right. Yeah. I have lots of friends that are a part of that, that are here in Dallas. I say lots. I have a few friends that are part of that here in Dallas. They mean well. They're doing the best they can. Drop it. Y'all just need to get back together with all the YRs. Kiss and make up.
Right.
I want some kiss.
But they went to they had their first like policy convention or something like that.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that was coming out of there was just batty. It was like, really?
Yeah.
These are the things that you're going to be pushing on your socials is like the resolutions that you like. a ban on IVF.
I really did not like that one.
I mean, look, I understand the arguments about wastefulness and depending upon how you
Yeah.
want to look at it, murder of embryos, right?
Right,
I
right.
100% get that argument.
Yeah, if you want to do one at a time,
Right.
fundamentally is different than abortion, though.
Correct.
Fundamentally, in results, IVF is to create life. Abortion is a dead end to end it.
It is, except for, I don't know. We don't need to get into it.
Yeah.
I
But I liked your solution of doing it like one at a time or
that's-
something to that effect.
Right. If the offending issue is that you're creating a bunch of because what happens is you make a ton of embryos and because it's cheaper.
Right, to do it in a batch.
It's just cheaper. You make a bunch of embryos, you start implanting them, and it's just cheaper to do it that way.
Literally see what sticks. Yeah.
And so essentially what happens is you end up with a bunch of fertilized embryos that
Yeah.
if from I guess a biological standpoint, a Christian standpoint, however you want to look at it, hey, that's a life now. That's a human life, right? It's got its own independent, it begins at conception, it's conceived. You can't just throw out 30 human lives.
Yeah.
I 100% get that argument. The answer is not to ban IVF. The answer is to say you're not allowed to do that, right? I'm sorry if it's more expensive, but you need to go one at a time.
Yeah.
Or you only need to make enough that you can implant or however you want to put it. The bigger issue is of all of the things that matter to people and voters right now, IVF is something that like a small percent of obsessed people really care about.
Right. And Donald Trump proved that in the last weeks of the debate. I think this came up as like the left trying to do like a big gotcha. And Trump was like, no, I'm not going to ban IVF. And you know what? In fact, I'm going to fund it.
Right.
And like everyone's like, okay, more babies, right? Because that's that. And it's like, again, we got to pick. We got to, like you were saying, we have to fix these larger problems. And then if we want to get down into our, I guess, more hobby type, deeper situations, then we can address those.
Right.
But if we're not handling these, you know, I guess around the table type topics of affordability on all fronts, you know, how people are feeling, are they positive about life, are they negative about life, the future of their children, all these things. None of that matters. It does not matter. You need to solve people's problems. It's the only reason they pay attention to politics. If things are going so well that they are not paying attention, that's actually a good thing.
Right.
To a very large degree.
That's what the goal is, to have a limited government, at least if you're a conservative, right? You want limited government.
Right.
You don't want the government doing any more than it has to do.
Right.
You know, it's something that I'm actually working on right now. I spent some time today when I took time off for lunch to like, what is it that we want the government to do? Like, what is its purpose? You know, one of the things that kind of like that argument, I'm going to use a Republican debate right now, Israel.
Okay. I got to take my shoes off. It's getting too hot.
All right.
I'm burning up in this flannel.
Kyle's on fire for Israel. I bring it up and he's sweating.
Immediately burst into flames.
Well, so it's just like, look, if you look at Israel and say, oh, well, we give Israel money because of AIPAC and because of Ted Cruz's weird, we have a biblical obligation to protect the Holy Land of Israel or the God's chosen people or whatever.
Right.
Dude, what are you talking about? But if you look at it as like, yeah, they're our greatest ally in the Middle East. They are fighting a lot of our enemies right now. A lot of the people that would like to kill Americans would like to kill Israelis first. And it's in Americans' national security interest to fight those fights there, as opposed to give our enemies space to operate so they can maybe come over here.
Mm-hmm.
One of those is an America First oriented rationale. One of those is some sort of like weird amalgamistic, I'm going to try to say things to maybe justify and support this. Same thing as far as like having U.S. military bases all over the world. Like, yeah, it's not a terrible thing for us to have military bases in Saudi Arabia and in Afghanistan and in Germany and in Japan and in Korea and in all of these places.
Yeah.
Because international relations doesn't exist in a vacuum. And as soon as we leave, our enemies will swoop in. China's done that and Russia's done that in mass in Africa. So it's like, yeah, if you look at it as a sense of like, oh, we're just throwing money away at these in these other countries, it's like, yeah, no, we're not, because there's actually an American national security interest in us being there. You might disagree with that. You might think that it's not in our national security interest, that we're creating more enemies or whatever it is that you're doing. But that is a much better debate for us to be having than just this silly, like, well, Israel is God's chosen people, so of course we have to give them F-35s.
Yeah, and I think that there has been, including Ted Cruz. I just got done saying a bunch of great things about him. That has been like one of his weak points of not making the best case of
Right.
why, just completely defaulting to, well, biblically. And it's like, okay, but like biblically, a lot of people disagree with that, with the whole second covenant thing.
Right.
So it's like, it's not a great, and if he would explain, hey, look, these are the reasons why, and then we could have a substantial debate on that. I don't think that he would actually ever get into that. I mean, we saw the Tucker Carlson interview and everything like that, and that's kind of been the last time
Tucker
that
Carlson hit job.
it was an interview. But neither of them walked away. Both of them walked away bruised. But yeah, I think that, my biggest problem with the whole Israel thing, two-state solutions, really, it never should have been a two-state solution. It should have been a three-state solution. There needs to be a Christian state inside of that land as well. But
You're definitely not getting a Christian state without American boots on the ground. Are
Well-
you advocating for American boots on the ground in the Holy Land?
just Christian in general. It could be any Western. It could be let's say a coalition, if you will.
Oh, you think
yeah.
there's going to be a non-American military coalition that does that?
No, I think there are going to be a lot of Americans. I think a lot of Americans would be very happy about that. But let's like Africa, for instance. That's a really great example. So Africa, since the Cold War, we have been sending in mercenaries, and we've been, there's been tons of little engagements, and we've had private armies, but the problem is that we've never actually like fully committed, and that's actually been one of my issues is like, okay, look, if we're going to be a non-interventionist country, then okay, fine. But if we're going, I don't want to just put our toes in the water. I want to commit. So let's say that there's a bunch of countries in Africa. They have a lot of resources, and we want to help build them up. Okay, then let's go do that. And I don't want to be bash about it. I don't want to have like secret dark money, CIA funding. I don't want to have all these weird NGOs and stuff. I just want to say, hey, look, we want to build infrastructure in said country, and to do that, we need to prop up this government. This person's our guy, and by not going down that path and kind of like playing this little game through the Cold War and then backing out after '92, what we have done is we have opened up this huge gap. We did not see China coming with their Silk Road initiative. And now what we have, for instance, in not Ethiopia, Eritrea, like on the East Coast there, we have a military installation, a very large one operating. 1 mile down the road, we have an almost identical Chinese CCP operation, which is simply spying on what we're doing, and now we're having this Cold War type thing inside of Africa for the resources. All the while, really the lives of Africans are not getting any better.
No.
And that has been a massive issue. That is on the Western world of like, I'm not saying like we need to give them a bunch of shit. I'm saying that we could have done it better, like kind of armchairing this thing. We could have done it better, build up their society, and created actual allies, and not this situation where we go through the UN and simply pay these warlords to do these things. We give them a bunch of money, we give them a bunch of weapons, and then they still just disregard what we're going to say. And that's kind of that's why I like people just like actually like commit to what they're doing or saying.
And this is why it's so important to get the messaging right to the American public.
Yes.
Right? Because this is a problem that Russia and China don't have.
They don't have this problem at all.
They get to stay in power for as long as they want to.
Yeah.
So you can have a government with a 20-year plan, and they can spend 40 years doing it because
Yes.
they're not going to have a free and fair election, and they're not going to have regime change.
Yeah, and that's why we should dissolve. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why here in the U.S., I mean, but this is why doing things right matters. Like when I played football, the thing our coaches used to say is if you do the little things, the big things take care of themselves.
yeah.
And in politics, it's the same way. It's lazy politics that gets people to say, "Oh, we have to be in Israel because they're God's chosen people."
Right, and
Right.
they just turn a blind. Yeah, they just
Right.
turn away.
So the
They
thing
don't
is,
answer
like
questions.
the thing that you have to do is you have to sit there and say, "Look, if we don't stay engaged with if we don't make Iran spend all of their money attacking Israel." And using the peripherals of Israel as the battleground with the Iranians, then they can use that money on other terrorist organizations that might be able to carry out attacks on American soil
on American soil or in Europe.
or in Europe or anything like that.
Right.
We have to make sure that we don't have another Afghanistan pre-2001 where there is just the terrorists run the thing. It's their safe haven. They've got all this heroin that they can sell, and they could fund themselves to
Out of Afghanistan, yeah.
right. I mean, that's the sort of thing that, like, yeah. Does look? I have a brother that was in Afghanistan. Does anybody want American soldiers to have to be in places like Afghanistan?
No.
No, they don't want. We don't want American soldiers to have to be there.
Yeah.
But that's the world sometimes. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you have to do things you don't want to do. I would love to have cheeseburgers for lunch every day, right? Or
So
to go.
good.
I would love to go down and go to my local barbecue spot and have like very juicy brisket every day.
But they dry it out.
But I would, I would be broke from paying pounds of brisket prices, and I would definitely die of a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
So every once in a while, I have to eat turkey. Point being,
Yeah.
and I don't want to demean the sacrifices we made in Afghanistan to just be like, oh, it's eating turkey. But I'm just saying,
Right.
yeah, it sucks that we have people that are there, but you do, because if you don't have Americans there, if we don't have some sort of presence there, the alternative is worse.
It definitely is worse. I did like. I'm gonna go to your point here, by the way, but
You're fine.
It definitely is worse. I did like President Trump's idea of like, hey, we need to get out of this thing. I kind of take the Eric Prince line of like, look, here's the problem, which what you were talking about is like, if you don't, this is what's going to happen. And Eric Prince was like, look, let's do this. Let's control this air base. Let's give them, air support. Let's give them tech. Let's give them and make it very tight. And that way they can hold off. We can hold off the population centers. And we've already invested 20 years into this. The Afghani government pays for the security force out of the Air Force Base and everything so it's a net, like just monetary, it is net zero.
Right.
Right? And eventually what you have is you could have at least 2 or 3 generations, because again, their generations are much tighter than American generations, at least 2 or 3 generations growing up under actual education. Not our education, but it is some education. You have women to a certain degree having more liberties, and you have the bulk population of that country kind of getting exposed to a Western exposure. And with that too, it's not just Western exposure. There's people coming from Saudi Arabia that is also industrializing. There's people that are from Iraq that's industrializing kind of. You'll have people from Indonesia, Muslims from Indonesia coming in there. It's all net zero. It's not our men and women like patrolling a little village way up in the mountains. Their control, it was a much smaller, but instead we just kind of, again, not the right thing, because I think politically speaking, to be like, well, we need to hire mercenaries. That's what it had been. Men, it would have been guns for hire. It had been mercenaries. That headline would not have sat well with anybody. It would have been looked like the British East Trading Company, and Eric Prince joked about that, right? And they'd be like, oh, you think that you're going to just turn this into another India? And it's like, I hate to say this, but the British showing up to India, British showing up to Africa, as horrible as those things that did happen there, did help those countries.
Right.
And we could have done that humanely in Afghanistan. But again, it goes just this whole thing goes back to just people not like making a good rationale and a good conversation and argument to the constituents on why this is important, and being able to overcome media and being able to make the point to the constituents on why this is good.
I mean, look, Western civilization is getting progressively less evil.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea about blood for oil in Iraq. We don't get our oil from Iraq. I've got all sorts of issues with that line of attack. But what a new modern concept to be offended by the fact that we would send our military to fight and die for resources. Because for like all of human history,
that's what it's all been about.
Right? I mean, like legitimately prior to, let's just say, the 1900s,
yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt, you would have had, other than a few wailing widows, almost nobody objecting to, well, of course we would send our military to go get resources.
Right. Literally, that was the point.
Right. Like, we need those things and
right.
we don't have them, so we're going to send a military to take them so that our society can like flourish. Sorry about you, but that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely.
I think rightfully so. The West is progressing away from thinking that that's a good thing. The reason that I bring that up is to kind of, to your point, the failing in Afghanistan and the failing in Iraq is that we didn't stay and finish the job. The movie Charlie Wilson's War, which I'm a fan of. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Such a good movie.
That's the whole point of the end of the movie.
Such a good movie, yeah.
It was like, yeah, we went into Afghanistan and we defeated the Soviets, and then we just like
left.
We wouldn't help them fund schools.
Yeah.
And so we created a vacuum, and it was filled by bad people, which is almost always what happens.
Always what happens.
Not to be too much of a feminist.
Careful.
But look, I honestly believe one of the best things that you can do to stabilize a country is educate and empower the women in that society. Use this as an example. When we get done with the podcast tonight, if I were still a bachelor, I would definitely go to Whataburger.
Right.
I would get something that horribly unhealthy. I would go home and I would play video games until 2:00 in the morning.
Dude,
right?
You're pissing all over my plans.
Right? Now, I'm going to go home where a woman also lives.
Right.
I can't pull that off anymore.
Can't pull that off.
Could I?
Too much judgment.
But, exactly. The moderating impact of having a woman that's living there affects what my behavior is. Like, when you look at like how societies function, bad things happen when you have a bunch of single men with, no women to moderate them. So when we're talking about stuff like Afghanistan, to your point, we have to be there long enough. We have to affect the society for long enough for you to have a generation or two that comes up and takes power.
Yeah.
In order for you to actually have a lasting impact. We didn't do that. And so we pissed away all that, sacrifice, all that money.
The blood and treasure, yeah.
Right.
That, and I do believe that we will end up going back there. One way or another. I think it's probably going to be more of an Eric Prince type situation where we end up giving, we're still paying the Taliban today. Through NGOs, we are going to end up going back there because something is going to happen. Someone is going to do something, or new resources are going to be found or needed. And that's just the facts of that area, just along with a lot of other places around the world. So, but can we talk about when women have too much?
Well, I want to tie this point up.
Okay.
We did not intend to go into foreign policy.
No.
The reason we got there is because the importance is how you present these sort of things and the rationale to Americans.
Yes.
In the sense that our elected officials need to do a much better job of explaining how this benefits us and have the courage to do so. Educate yourselves, have the courage to sit down with the voter and say, yes, it's worth it for us to spend this many billions of dollars because this is the long-term benefit that we get. And we really want to have a presence in Afghanistan, and because Afghanistan's not too far from Iran or Pakistan, and those are two places that may not always love us, and it might be beneficial for us to have a stabilizing influence in the region.
Right.
Like, what, make the argument to people. Be willing to make that, because if you don't, if we keep having this wishy-washy, I'm going to flip-flop on all this stuff to chase whatever the current mood is, then we lose to China and Russia, who have and will execute a long-term plan.
Yes. And our enemy, or China, for instance, I mean, they have, when they talk, I mean, they're talking 500 years. Like, they don't really make plans under 50 years.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. You know, so.
Well, that may be impressive. Let's talk about somebody that is profoundly unimpressive.
Profoundly unimpressive, yet still influential. Are someone that near and dear to our heart, or just someone that lives around us and represents people in Dallas, I guess. Jasmine Crockett, which I'm sure that you have seen, and actually very happy that finally enough pressure has been put on, talk about the base, to actually, I guess, quote unquote, release the Epstein files, right? We finally forced a vote on that. And immediately you started seeing people scurry. You started seeing people trying to... Now, before this release, before this vote, if you all didn't know, there was approximately 2,000 pages of emails that were released as well. Kind of more of a leak. And in there was various things. A lot of it was very mundane stuff. We saw conversations where it was a iCloud chat. So
right.
text messages that go through your computer, phone, and
it's that communist Apple stuff, right?
It's that communist Apple stuff, which I don't deal with.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there was a representative from the Virgin Islands. Epstein was texting at that time in congressional hearings. Hey, ask this question. Hey, ask that question. Representative was texting back. Hey, I'm about to come up. Like, what do I need to ask? Okay, great. That does not look good.
No. It's not look good. That's bad.
That's bad.
That's bad.
That's not a good look.
That is profoundly the sort of corruption and influence that you worry about with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein.
With Epstein.
Is having some Democrat like this woman from the Virgin Islands.
Very bad.
Under his, like, literally a puppet on a string for this guy.
And just real quick, side note, let's say it's not Jeffrey Epstein. Let's take it's any large donor. Is that still right? Is that what we really want? Hey, this person that happens to have a lot of money, however they ended up getting it, to be texting their congressional representative or whoever they have on a leash and saying, hey, I want you to ask this question. I want you to put this person to the fire. I want you to bring up this bill. I want you to do that. You know why? Because that empowers me, and that will let me do this and not let me do that. And oh, by the way, I'll keep you in your seat. I'll give you your money that you need to win the next round. Okay, so particularly the Black Caucus of Women go out and try to defend this lady. Jasmine Crockett is the first one to run out there. And she says very quickly, hey, me and my staffers did a quick Google search. And as you and I know, Google is 100% correct all the time, and it can't mislead you. And there's really no need to go any further, especially someone like Jasmine Crockett, who is educated, who is a lawyer, right, who has higher education than I do. And I'll play the video here.
Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly: Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio. I just want to be clear. If this is the standard that we're going to make, just know we're going to expose it all. And just know that the FEC filings, they are available for everybody to review.
So, real quick, for the audience, is there a possibility that there's anyone else in the United States of America named Jeffrey Epstein? Possibly. Also, look at the screenshot. How many dollars did this Jeffrey Epstein donate? Couple $100 on each account. This person that has been in the news now for a decade or more, you think that he's so influential because he's donating $250 at a time?
Right.
Absolutely not. Okay, so this very quickly becomes very, very embarrassing. Lee Zeldin comes out and was like, hey, yeah, this is not the same Jeffrey Epstein, right? Okay, so
obviously Jasmine Crockett, as a lawyer that went to the University of Houston, went to Rhodes College, she just said, my bad. Maybe I should have double checked my staff's research, right? Like she just apologized and acknowledged that she had kind of overstepped and then moved on, right?
Well, she tried to move on, and she tried to, and she was like, okay, well, let me do this. Let me go on CNN with resting bitch face Collins and see what I can get away with. Collins, in all defense for her, right, and all the things that we have to say about her, she actually did a fairly good job here. She played the clip and asked Crockett, hey, so what's the deal with this? Crockett's response.
You mentioned Lee Zeldin there. He's now a cabinet secretary. He responded and said it was actually Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who's a doctor that doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his. Do you want to correct the record on the people that...
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. Just so that people understand, when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled. And that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies. Because it was not the same one, that's fine. But when Lee Zeldin had something to say, all he had to say was it was a different Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein, so at least I wasn't trying to mislead people. Now, have I dug in to find out who this doctor is? I have not. So I will trust and take what he says, is that it wasn't that Jeffrey Epstein, but I was not attempting to mislead anybody. I literally had maybe 20 minutes before I had to do that debate.
Yeah, but people might see that and say, well, you're trying to make it sound like he took money from
I did not know.
A registered sex offender.
No, but I literally did not know. When you search FEC files, and that's what I had my team to do, I texted them and I said, listen, we're going up. They are saying that she took donations.
Right, but someone might say, well, your team should have done the homework to make sure it wasn't the convicted sex trafficker.
Within 20 minutes, you could not find that out, not from just doing a quick search on FEC. So, number one, I made sure that I was clear that it was a Jeffrey Epstein, but I never said that it was specifically that Jeffrey Epstein.
She wasn't debating anyone. She was just simply making a statement on the floor, by the way. So, Jasmine Crockett thinks that the American people, specifically her constituents and people that send her money, she thinks that they are so ignorant that she got up and talked about a Jeffrey Epstein. It is in my heart and her statements that she thought that was Jeffrey Epstein, the person that everyone is talking about, the child predator that is making those donations to Republicans. Now, very well he did. Very well he could have, right? But the fact that she got up and was like, oh, look, I found a Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm going to mislead you. And then the audacity to come on and say, well, I just said Jeffrey Epstein.
Taking her at face value is worse than if she had just messed up. If she intentionally went out there and said a Jeffrey Epstein and then listed all of these people, that is an intentional
like which one
deception.
Is worse?
No, it's an intentional deception. You know, when you say Jeffrey Epstein,
everyone's
thinking of that guy
with the island,
right?
With the young ladies, with the plane, right. Absolutely.
The pervert, the pedophile. Everybody thinks of the guy that definitely didn't hang himself.
That's right. We're not thinking of the
We're not thinking of
doctor
like some
in Long
doctor
Island.
in Tennessee or whatever it
Yeah.
is, right? So for her to get up there and say a Jeffrey Epstein, if she literally intentionally went out there, made that argument from the floor of the House,
Yeah.
that's worse. She literally admitted to like intentionally deceiving people by saying a Jeffrey Epstein. Now, if she had gone out there and said, look, there are people named Jeffrey Epstein that made all these donations and we don't know who's what and Republicans aren't vetting this, and that's a totally different argument.
Totally different
That's
argument.
not the argument that she made as
Not at
per
all.
the clip that you saw before.
Not at all.
But here's the thing, here's why it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Don't say that.
because she's still going to get reelected wherever she's at.
Yep.
Because making a mistake like that only matters if people learn about it. And the media is going to cover for Jasmine Crockett as they always do. And so you're not going to get free publicity informing people what a liable and despicable person she is. Instead, what you're going to get is you're going to have some Republican trying to spread that message in that congressional district. And they're
South
not
Dallas.
and they're not going to be able to do it
Nope.
because they're not going to have money to do it.
They're not gonna have money.
Because it's going to be a D plus 20 or 30 district.
Right.
And so she'll just keep skating. This is why I said earlier, different pieces on the chessboard do different things. Jasmine Crockett is in a super safe district. Her job now is to go around the country, go viral every once in a while on something that Democrats can applaud. This mistake doesn't matter. It's not going to get covered. I would just say, what if Trump had done something like this?
Dude.
Can you imagine the amount of negative press there would be if Donald Trump conflated donations to Democrats from Jeffrey Epstein from somebody that wasn't the pedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
There would literally be, and I'm not exaggerating, congressional hearings on this.
Probably.
Absolutely there would be.
Jasmine Crockett's going to skate on it. The media is going to like do 2 seconds of kind of journalism. And
This was
then
their cover, right?
That's it. They did that. It's done. It's over. It will never matter to her again.
Right.
And it won't matter. Nobody's going to have enough money to make it matter in her district. And that's the problem, right? I mean, this goes back to like the weird position we are on drawing maps in Texas. Yeah. We could draw a lot of maps that are closer. We could have redrawn congressional maps in Dallas County to where Jasmine Crockett didn't have such a safe seat. But then we have to make Republican seats more vulnerable to do that. That's the point with Mercury part of this stuff.
Yeah. And so just real quick, and I do like those points that you made. I mean, it doesn't matter. My question is this, and this kind of goes out. One, the clip, side-by-side comparison, the clip of her on the Senate floor making these allegations, essentially, to the CNN clip where she's like, oh, I wasn't trying to mislead anybody. You know, give it a couple weeks. You're going to see the viewership is going to be way larger on the clip of, oh, Jeffrey Epstein, donated to all these Republican people. And then there's going to be, I don't know, half of her being like, well, I wasn't trying to intentionally mislead anyone. That's why I said, Jeffrey Epstein or a Jeffrey Epstein, right? And she knows that. She knows that that is an issue. And here's also the problem. It's even more intensified with your algorithm. Your algorithm is going to feed you Jeffrey Epstein owning Republicans if you're a liberal from the Senate floor. It is not going to feed you all the Republican accounts clipping that CNN thing where Jasmine Crockett essentially get called out for lying and misleading voters. That's not going to pop up on your feed if you are a liberal. And that is an issue.
I mean, look, the Congressional Ethics Group should take action against her. And here's the reason why. Just full on, here's the reason why. That's, again, Jasmine Crockett likes to play like she's a common woman, whatever. She went to Rhodes. Mm-hmm. She graduated law school from the University of Houston.
Yep.
She knows what she was doing. I believe her when she said she intentionally said, hey, and here's why.
Yeah, she did.
I look at campaign records all the time. There is not a place if you're looking at the FEC, if you're pulling up elected officials' campaign reports, donation reports, for every donor, you're also going to see the date of the donation, and you're also going to see the person's address. That's required reporting. So if her staff is searching for donations for Jeffrey Epstein, I'm just going to say, if you go, members of the, viewers, do this. Go to the FEC website. Do a campaign finance report search. Search by somebody's name. What you're going to see is on the screen, you're going to see a person's name listed, who they donated to, when they donated to them, and at least the state they're located in. And if you click on it, the address. Yeah. It is very easy, especially if you're a congressional staffer. Yeah. You 100% know. They knew for a fact, in my opinion, when they pulled that up. I don't understand how they wouldn't have immediately seen that it wasn't the same Jeffrey Epstein. Because if I remember the story correctly, some of these donations were made after Epstein died.
Yes. Some of them are made after Jeffrey Epstein died. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I don't think that Jasmine Crockett's
Jeffrey Epstein's not dead
are the dumbest people that ever lived. I'm assuming that they have some level of competency because they are a congressional staffer.
Right. Yeah.
They can read. This is not an innocent mistake, in my opinion.
No.
This is something that
intentionally misled.
She got on there and wanted to intentionally mislead people.
Staffers in general, generally speaking, I had this conversation on Instagram. Staffers in general are smart people. You might not like them personally or whatever, but they're not dumb. They're not, you know what I'm saying?
You will get an occasional Nepo hire.
Right, but generally speaking, they're pretty sharp people.
Between researching something and it being stated on the floor of the House, a smart person looked at it.
Right, congressional teams and Congress, you look at all the time, people are looking at who's donating for who has how much money. Everyone's always looking at that because that's what matters in a race. And so the fact that she's like, oh, geez, I don't know how to get around this website. Oh, gee willikers. It's like, dude, you live on that website. Everyone is looking every single time it updates.
Jasmine Crockett went to law school. You learn how to do research in law school.
Right.
So she did that. The FEC website is not difficult. It's not a hard website to look at. I just don't believe any of that. I actually I do believe her. I believe when she said on CNN, I did not say that Jeffrey Epstein. I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. Which means that she intentionally deceived people, which means that the Congressional Ethics Group or office or committee or whatever it is needs to take action against her for admitting that she intentionally misled the public and her colleagues on the floor of the House.
Yeah, and I don't know, and I'm not 100% convinced that she thought that the CNN interview would go the way that it did. But Caitlin Collins, I do think, did a fairly good job at putting her, at least the initial question, to have her, make this big convoluted statement about what she needed to say. There wasn't really a good follow-up, kind of putting her feet to the fire on it. But I will say, I think Caitlin Collins, at least, maybe it was planned. Hey, I'm gonna give you a little bit of leadway, make your statement, and then we'll move on, kind of like you said. But I don't know if she was prepared for this CNN interview, though.
She was 100% prepared for the CNN interview.
That was part of the plan. This is going to go so sideways that I'm going to have to go on CNN.
Look, I don't know for a fact that she worked it out with CNN ahead of time.
Sure.
But Jasmine Crockett was going on CNN.
Yeah.
She has
some cover.
She has a comms team.
Yeah.
She 100%, her comms team would have known for a fact that she was going to be asked about that.
Yeah.
Right? It happened contemporaneously. It was a viral clip. Yeah. They knew she was going to be asked for it.
That was the grand strategy. They knew it was coming.
Well, listen, it's you and I both have friends that do political work for House races, city council races, stuff like that. That would have 100% prepped their candidate for it.
Yeah.
It would have been essentially campaign malpractice not to have your candidate ready for that. 100%. Jasmine Crockett knew that question was coming. She had a prepared response. The benefit that she had as a Democrat is that there wasn't going to be a push after that. She wasn't going to get grilled. She was going to be able to give her like stupid response, and CNN wasn't going to press her.
Yep.
They weren't going to make it uncomfortable. It wasn't going to be a story they kept leading with. They weren't going to push it to try to make it viral on their socials. Like, it would just be a moment in time that happened. That's the cover that they provide.
Okay, so we took a little break, refilled and emptied. Why none of that really matters, kind of to your point. Why it doesn't matter that Jasmine Crockett goes out and kind of does a very manipulative thing about Jeffrey Epstein and who's getting what money is because she is so relevant in today's political world with the Democratic Party. And here's how we know. I mean, the Democratic Party is kind of putting her forward one way or another as the best and brightest, and that is the future of the Democratic Party, is a Jasmine Crockett, AOC type figure. And because she's getting asked to come to other districts to fundraise, to endorse people. In Texas 18th Congressional District, which is down in Austin, if you don't know, the outline is like a big C around Austin, but in the inside of that C is like a V. It's a very odd shaped congressional district, as most are. There is a runoff, right? The seat had opened up. There's a runoff. No one met 50%. And so she is endorsing a Democratic Christine Menifee. Sorry about that. On last Tuesday night in a special elections U.S. House seat that has been vacant since March. Right now, if you don't know anything about the House of Representatives, it is a fairly narrow margin, right? And there's been several seats throughout this couple of years that have gone vacant for health reasons, deaths, people have retired, people have stepped down, all different kinds of things, but or have been picked up. For instance, President Trump, he took 3 or 4 people right off the bat for his cabinet, as if nobody else was.
Yeah, he freed us of Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, as if no one else was qualified to do that. No, Matt Gaetz, he stepped up on his own accord, and so it's very telling. It kind of goes to your point where, Jasmine Crockett come out and pretty much say whatever she wants. She's in a very safe district. She's popular because she's over the top on the internet. She's an internet sensation. She's kind of fake
She's charismatic.
She's charismatic to her base, right?
She's entertaining.
She's entertaining.
That's the same thing about AOC. That's the same thing about all of these folks.
Yeah, I think AOC's a little bit more authentic in the fact that she really was a bartender. Jasmine Crockett is a little bit more fake in the sense of how she talks, her mannerisms, the sense of that. But anyways, she still matters because people around the country or in Texas are, hey, can you come down to my congressional race? Will you endorse me? Will you fundraise for me? So she goes down to Houston. This is kind of 2 Democrats running for the same seat. Right. One of them was a Harris County first elected county attorney. The other one was a mayor. Right. And hey, I need Jasmine Crockett to kind of tilt the balance here. And I think you're going to see more and more of that.
Happened in the Dallas City Council elections.
Adam
Basildua had Jasmine Crockett poll greeting and doing.
Yep.
The voicemails, the auto robocalls and that sort of stuff.
Exactly. And so, for her to do something in Dallas makes sense. I think it's a little bit more telling for her to go to Houston or maybe even other states. And I think that we will see that in the next coming election where she's in a safe seat. She needs to do very few events in her district. Right. She will be going out and fundraising, sharing links and things like that where, she'll get 20% and the other candidate will get 80%. AOC is very good at doing this. This is the kind of things that the Republican Party needs to do. If you're a Republican in a safe seat, you need to go and you need to endorse people, whether, if you agree with them, if they kind of align with you in some way, shape, or form, to go out and help these other candidates. I'm not saying you have to do it for everybody, but to go above and beyond for your fellow party members to try to grow the party, I think that's really important. There are people that do that. For instance, Dan Crenshaw. God, the dude gets so much crap, but he is
Honestly, that was the first. That was the first name that came to mind.
Yeah, well,
It was
we see
here's-
him a lot. Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. This is what the Democrats don't do that Republicans do. Is they don't eat their own the way that we do.
We eat our own. Yes.
Right? Like Jasmine Crockett
Yeah.
and AOC, the squad. Remember when the squad came in? And this was like a decade ago now.
Yeah, oh,
right?
yeah, the squad.
When the squad came in,
Like the Fantastic Four.
they were taking shots at the Democrat establishment. They were taking shots at Nancy Pelosi, and they were doing all that sort of stuff. And both the Democrat base and the Democrat electeds let them do it because they understood the game. They understood that the squad was exciting to people.
Yeah.
Like it was exciting to young Democrat voters and maybe, people that hadn't voted before. The same way Trump was exciting. You get somebody like Dan Crenshaw. Man, Dan Crenshaw, I feel like if you talk to activist Republicans, they hate Dan Crenshaw. They're so negative and nasty towards Crenshaw.
Yes, he's got a bad rap.
Even though he does go out there and fundraise for other people, promote other candidates,
Yep.
he is a good ambassador for Republicans when he's talking to. I mean, look at the way he handled like the SNL situation, right?
was great.
Where
Yeah.
he was like made fun of for his eye patch on SNL,
Right.
and he turned it into like a major win,
Let me go on SNL.
right? Let me go be a reasonable, like decent person on SNL, accept his apology, make a couple of jokes at my own expense, and we'll move on down the road.
He wasn't like, oh, they made fun of me, and oh, yeah.
He went on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, held his own, did a good job. He goes on all these different podcasts. He does the same sort of thing. JD Vance is that way too. And JD Vance is our current VP, and there are people on the right that are attacking him because of his wife. It's just like the stuff that the conservative right does is so counterproductive to what our goals are.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to see kind of what the differences were, like, for instance, the squad attacking Nancy Pelosi to what I guess like new wave conservatives doing, attacking JD Vance or the Speaker of the House or something like that. I mean, like, I guess it's a good thing we should probably look into, like, what are the pros and cons, what are the differences? And I think one of the biggest differences is that maybe they were not so, I don't know, fundamental or something. I'm just kind of spitballing here on the side, but there is a difference. There is a big difference because the squad did show up and say, "Hey, we're going to shake up the tree and we're going to change things." And in a way, they did, but at the same time, they kind of towed a line,
Yeah.
right? And they did it very tactfully. Some people are showing up, and I mean, I'm not against it in theory. I'm also not against it as far as like policy changes, because sometimes things do need to be called out that are not being done, or people are not fulfilling their promises. I think is important, but I do think it is important in the sense of like, okay, what is the outcome on the next election? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not fully like, hey, we have to vote every single time for this person if this person's consistently not fulfilling their promises. But if it's just like meaninglessly like throwing, shit at the wall or something, it's like, well, that's not really productive. It's not really something that necessarily we need. I will say this. I think Republicans get their butt hurt much more. As far as we want to make fun of snowflakes, though, damn, Republicans are emotional. People get very hurt very easily on this.
It's one of my favorite things about the X accounts revealing where things are located.
Oh, yes, that was
and seeing
great.
all of these like
From
MAGA, whatever.
Yeah.
And on both sides of the political spectrum. But there'd be so many of these accounts. I mean, we saw it with like people like DC Drano. I don't know about the X stuff, but remember when DC Drano got caught like just being bought and paid for. All these paid ads and all this
there
sort of
was
stuff.
something there. I forget what it was, but all of them pretty
Right.
much posted the same thing.
That-
It was about some food, something or other. But yes,
That's the difference to me.
yeah,
Is the political left doesn't eat their own the same way the political right does.
right.
Like it just doesn't. And there is a bit of that where, AOC and the rest of the squad, they knew how far they could go in attacking the establishment without incurring the ire of the establishment.
yeah,
That's smart politics, right? That's being politically very savvy.
yeah,
On the political right, we don't always have that. It's just one of those things. It's like I feel that we and I would just say, like, who are our up and coming charismatic Republican officials? Like the ones that are like, they would do a really good job on SNL, or they're going to be someone that you want to drop into a situation and they go work the room well,
Yeah.
and people leave there liking them and thinking they're cool.
yeah. I mean, I think that politics is really just kind of an as a moment thing. Like you kind of have your moment and you miss it or you don't. I think JD Vance is definitely up there. Dan Crenshaw, I think in the right environment. I think he kind of took. I don't know what the deal was with that, but all of a sudden he just started getting attacked for a lot of things, and I think a lot of it had to do around the gun control thing.
Red
and
flag laws. That
red
was
flag
when he
laws.
first started getting attacked as red flag laws. And then he started getting attacked for being a neocon.
Right, and it was like, well, again, I think he's bringing up, again, he was trying to have a very deep, substantive conversation, like on X or something like that, and like you can't. It's just tough. It's unfortunate,
Right.
but like it's tough to do. It's like, hey, I'm actually trying to like bring forward like actually what's going on, and you just have a bunch of people on X that's like, oh, you suck, you
Yeah.
know. It's like, well.
Yeah, Dan, if you want to come on the cast and explain yourself, just text me.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it sucks because like we're in this environment where it's like, AOC's comments are like great bumper stickers.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have to explain them. A deeper conversation or a better conversation of like Dan Crenshaw talking about foreign policy and why we need to get involved in this, or like why a red flag law around somebody that has schizophrenia. Or a particular teenager that has been called, the police has been called on them 18 times or something like that, why that law would be important to allow the sheriff to do X amount of things. Like, you try to have that conversation or you put that out and all you get on X is, you got a bunch of douchebags with the fucking bumper sticker, shall not be infringed, and they wouldn't bust a fucking grape in a fruit fight. Like, they're just douchebags. And it's like, that's all you get. Right. And it's very tough for people to kind of go that little extra step. But that's
right.
that's why. But as far as like up and coming people, I mean, I feel like at this point, look, Trump is essentially a lame duck president. I don't see much more getting passed at this point. We've had, unfortunately, like 5 bills. There's probably going to be like 3 to 5 more, and they're going to be nothing bills. And it's going to be like, we love homeless veterans, and we love this, and kiddies, need a home and shit like that. Like, nothing of substance. And Donald Trump is sucking all the air out of the room and not really allowing too much. When this is going to kick off is we're going to have this big run up to the midterm. Day after the midterm, he loses half of his cabinet because they're all going to be vying for the next big spots. And that's when we're going to see the people that are actually going to be leading the Republican Party. You're going to have people coming out there. They've been planning this. They've been planning their speeches. They've been planning their campaigns. They're lining up their teams. Everyone is, seeing who is talking to who behind the curtain. They're going to have money on the sidelines ready to go into their super PACs. All that. All that is going to come out.
It's, who they're going to be.
You kind of know who they're going to be.
You're going to have DeSantis.
Sure.
You're going to have probably Kristi Noem.
Yep.
You're going to have Marco Rubio.
Yep. course.
They're going to have J.D. Vance.
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I'm interested in him.
you may have Nikki Haley come back again, because Nikki Haley was very popular with a certain segment of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And if the Trump voter doesn't come out anymore, all of a sudden that's a much bigger coalition than it was before.
Yes, it is.
Although I think Marco Rubio probably steals some of her thunder there. But yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot more people vying for that coalition than
That's... See,
yeah.
I don't know. I talked about football before. I'm going to make another sports analogy.
Here we go. I have to look it up when you do these things.
It's like drafting a rookie quarterback.
Okay.
You bring him in. He's got a ton of talent. He just needs to be developed and taught how to be an NFL quarterback.
Okay.
If you're able to do that, cool. You've got your quarterback of the future. If he's in a bad situation and the local media is attacking him every day because he's not living up to the potential that he has,
Right.
then you probably ruin his career. Maybe he has a couple of coaches he has to play under, whatever. Same thing in politics.
Yeah.
You get these up and coming people.
Yep.
The Democrats do, in my opinion, a very good job of developing these up and coming candidates with an idea that they're not viable now, but in 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
There is no better example than Barack Obama. Right? Obama came into the House in Illinois. He was immediately identified as charismatic, very well spoken, all that sort of stuff. Attractive guy, fit guy. The Speaker of the Illinois House was Democrat, identified him, immediately started putting Obama on bills so he could accomplish things in the Illinois House.
Nice.
Then he gets moved up to the Senate. As a junior senator with no experience, he's given the opportunity to make a speech at the Democrat National Convention in 2004,
Yep.
which absolutely put him on the national map.
Absolutely. Yep.
Great speech, 100% put him on the map. And then next election comes up and there he is beating Hillary.
Yep.
So like Obama's a great example of young talent that the Democrats ushered through, prepared, developed, put the right people in his camp, and then all of a sudden, boom, they have a 2-term president.
Yeah.
We don't do that as Republicans.
Yeah.
Look, and she failed, but you can look at Kamala Harris the same way. Ambitious young woman, works up the ranks in California politics, is the attorney general, actually gets is the senator from the state of California, runs as as a presidential candidate, fails out early, but the Democratic machine, because we know Joe Biden wasn't making these choices, springs into action and says, hey, let's let her be the VP. Let's put her in that limelight. Let's put her in that spotlight.
Gotta have a
let's
woman.
give her an opportunity. Not just we have to have a woman, but let's give this one the opportunity to build up enough to where she could be a viable candidate in the future. Now she, dumb as a bag of rocks, box of rocks, whatever rocks container you want to have. So it didn't work. The plan didn't work, but you can't say that the Democrats did not attempt to develop her as a potential future candidate.
Right.
Republicans don't do that. We have to learn to start doing that as Republicans. And part of that is we have to let young electeds mess up. We have to let them be like a puppy and bite things they're not supposed to and chew up the occasional shoe, but still be there to guide them along the process.
Not cast them out.
Correct.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah, and as far as it's funny that you say that, because as far as like, we're all like, Christian based, this and that, and all about forgiving. It's like there's a lot of not forgiving going around on policy, on you said this and you did that, and that's a good point. There definitely needs to be a lot of that, because it does build a stronger base. I feel like we did this big run up, built a big tent, and then we got into power, and I felt like it didn't really go anywhere, and I think that frustrated a lot of people, and that's when the knives came out, and then all of a sudden the fracture.
Okay. We have a local example of exactly what you're talking about.
Good.
Tarrant County GOP chair race. Beau French steps down for Railroad Commission,
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
right? You have a number of candidates that are running for the office from different parts of the Republican spectrum.
Yeah.
You had, Shelley Gardner, who we talked to on A Better Conversation at the Fred Tate campaign event before she was running for county party chair.
Yep.
You had Tim Davis, excellent attorney. You also had John O'Shea, who had unsuccessfully run, I think, against Craig Goldman for for Kay Granger's old seat out in Tarrant County. So you had some candidates that had all run for office or, had good experience. They were vying for this position. After the first round of voting there was a special election to fill Beau French's seat last Saturday. After the first round of voting, the candidates got together off to the side and decided, hey, Tim Davis almost got it on the first vote. Instead of drawing this thing out, we're just going to say, okay, we're behind Tim Davis as the new chair. So he's the new chair in Tarrant County. That's the sort of stuff as Republicans that we need to be doing. Instead of like bitterly fighting till the end, is just like, look, practically this is going to be the person. Let's just support this person. Are they perfect? Do I agree with everything about them? Yes, no, who knows? But at the end of the day, they're enough on my side that we're going to get behind them and we're going to try to move the ball.
Yeah.
Because Tarrant County, look, look at what happened in the Senate district special election. The Democrat was the top vote getter.
Right.
For a seat that Kelly Hancock held for a good amount of time.
Right.
Right? And it's just like,
a lot of votes came out. Yep.
Right. We have to be on the same page to move this thing forward in 2026. So talking about, being on the same team, not killing each other. I think Tarrant County's GOP chair race, I thought, was a really good example of how things can go right. Did John O'Shea run to try to get the seat? Yes. Did Shelley run to try to get the seat? Yes. They both fully wanted it. They were fully engaged. We want to be the chair. But they also realized in that moment, okay, it's not going to be me. Instead of causing more consternation, let's get behind Tim and let's go try to win elections. We need more of that.
Yeah, no, and I think that there is some of that going around more and more, which is really, really great. I guess it's just situational. Like, I hear this a lot of like, hey, we need to come together. We need to stop infighting and stuff. And then it's like, okay, well, what particular situation? I think this is a great example of like 3 or 4 candidates are like, hey, let's all run for one spot. Okay, well, who's more likely going to end up winning this thing anyway? But I also think there are some situations where it's like, well, I think fundamentally these two people are different, and we do need to kind of hack it out, unfortunately. But yeah, the Tarrant County, and that's an important county, right? I guess there's a weird thing between Collin County and Tarrant County where it's like, are they the biggest Republican thing going on? But it is important because, like you said, we had an election. All of a sudden, more Democrats show up to vote for this in this area than Republicans, which is like, oh, that's concerning. And that kind of shows where the base is at, or at least the voter excitement. So more.
Make another sports analogy. Our primaries need to be races and not fights. Because you can have two candidates that are very different, right? They have different visions. They have, they're further conservative, they're more moderate, whatever. That have very real differences. But if they're both running a race, you stay in your lane, you try to be faster than the other guy or gal. What we don't need to have is it to be a UFC fight where,
getting fights in the
everybody leaves bloody and bruised and broken.
Yeah.
That's not in anybody's best interest at all.
Yeah.
Right? That's the stuff that we have to change about how we're doing these things. But again, going back to, we've talked about this a lot, like Are you running for office because you're actually trying to solve problems and do some good in the world? Or are you running for office because you want power or fame or attention or whatever?
Right.
Because if you're just running for fame or attention or those things, then the logical thing to do is win the primary by all means necessary, because in a lot of the districts, you'll have a safe win in the general.
Sure. Yeah.
If you're actually trying to solve problems and go do some good in the state, then you don't want to do that.
You don't want to
Because
do that.
if by chance you lose, you want to have another Republican win that seat in November instead of bitterly saying, well, if it can't be me, it should be nobody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of that. Here's a sports analogy. I don't like what's going on. I'm going to take my ball and go home. And there's a lot of that too.
There is too much of that.
There is a lot of that.
I think ending on a Kyle sports analogy is the only right thing to do.
I mean, we've turned a corner here.
We have. I credit your children's greater involvement in athletics.
Yeah. Well, that definitely was it. Thank you for that.
Well, look, we want to, again, we've been doing a better conversation now for over a year. We want to say thank you to our viewers. We want to say thank you to those that interact with us. We want to thank you to our guests that have been on over the last year. It's really been a great opportunity to try to dissect what's going on, understand our own ideas, and hopefully put something out there in the universe that can inform people and, most importantly, inspire maybe some thought on your own. Thanksgiving's coming up. I'm in a grateful spirit. I'm grateful for everybody that's watching. I'm grateful for you, Kyle, and all the work that you do to make this possible.
I'm grateful for you.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
All right, that's cool. I'll take that.
No, it's the input. You have challenged me constantly on my ideas and the learned input.
I'm not going to lie to you. Most people are not grateful for my challenge to their thoughts and ideas.
I'm like, damn, what did he... Okay, let me go check that out. Let me see what... Or even like our small little group chats. I'm like, let me check that out. Maybe I am off on that. Or I'm like, is that true? So that's important. If you are only talking to people that are just giving you thumbs up or saying yes, or they're not challenging to you, I'm not saying that they're not friends. I'm just saying that maybe you want to start talking to people that make you look a little bit deeper, because I have changed my views over last couple of years. That is for sure. Just because you're challenging what you're seeing every day, and to get that little bit more a dynamic, introspective view on things.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you do the same thing for me. Like, you have a different perspective on a lot of things than I do. A very practical perspective on a lot of things that makes me challenge orthodoxes that I've, read in a book somewhere and was just like, yeah, that's the answer to the question, and that's helpful to have. So I appreciate that. That's what we want you guys to have. We want you to have these conversations. We want you to have these exchanges. And if you want to have them with us, join us for the A Better Dallas Christmas Party, which is going to be on December the 11th at 7:00 at Celebrations. You can go to our website, abetterdallas.com, the events tab, and get your tickets for the event. It's $40 per ticket, but you get a free dinner. You don't get a free dinner. You pay $40 for dinner. You get free conversation with Kyle and I. Yes. I'll tell you that much right now.
Yep.
So we'd love to see you there, because this is, the whole point of us doing A Better Dallas and a better conversation is we want to cut through the nonsense, cut through the vitriol, and get people engaged in their future, get them engaged in how the government's run, get them engaged in campaigns, get them engaged in policy. That's why we do all this stuff, plus the millions of dollars that we make off the podcast, obviously. So thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. We hope to see you soon at one of our live events. But, what?
I was just
thinking about the giggles?
I was just thinking about all the money.
Oh, yeah, tons of money. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you soon here on Better Conversation.